Apple's new product doesn't seem like Apple at all.
Welcome to the All Future podcast, where we talk all things Apple, tech, AI, and various things throughout the week. If you're watching these videos, we really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd also appreciate you hitting that subscribe button and just generally keeping watching the videos. I guess that's the more important thing. But
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
you don't really have to subscribe, but it's cool if you do.
It is, yeah.
But watch the videos. That's better.
And today we're talking about some of the latest Apple leaks that do not have to do with iPhones.
What? Apple makes something that's not an iPhone?
Yeah.
Oh, exciting.
They make other products.
Oh, cool.
And the first one is one that is quite interesting. It's their first robot. And this has been rumored on and off and is getting back in there through our buddy Gurman, our best friend over Mark Gurman. And this is an AI-centric iPad on a moving arm, or essentially a tabletop robot. And apparently Apple is pushing forward with this, and their former watch and car chief, Kevin Lynch, is in charge of this product. They're aiming for a release between 2026 and 2027 and a price of about $1,000 for this product. Now, we've talked a lot about kind of a central home hub, and maybe this is that product that we would be excited about, but I'm also not sure. We're a niche of people that actually use HomeKit on that level to want that.
Yeah, they would sell two of these, one to me and one to you.
Yeah, exactly. So, what is this product and who is it for? I know we've seen other kinds of products like this from other brands, Meta or Amazon, where it's like a video chat device that you can be using and it follows you around. What do you think when you picture this device?
For one, I don't call it a robot.
Yes.
I'm like, this is stretching the definition of robot, I think, even though it probably technically falls within it, I guess. The only reason I can see this thing making sense and what they're probably doing with it, right, is multimodal, man, multimodal AI, right? Yeah. That's when this really makes sense, and it makes sense to have something that can look around. Following you while you do FaceTime, that's not even a situation that people are in that often. You know, how many times are you on a FaceTime call and you're not focused on the FaceTime call, right? Yeah, like who's doing that while they, I don't know, make their breakfast or fix their car or something, like something that's gonna like move around that requires movement. And they already do this software-wise with Center Stage, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're already kind of like following people and keeping them in the middle of the frame. So that doesn't make any sense to make this for that, right? What it does make sense though is if you need something that can focus and move around and observe things in a space for giving you Apple Intelligence answers or being pushed out to another AI, then it makes sense to me.
It still seems it still seems a little limited to me because if it's stationary and can only move 360 degrees, maybe it's going to have a camera that's like zooming across your house or something. But I'm just picturing you and you're not in the room anymore. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Now I need another $1,000 Apple robot in this room, you know?
Well, yeah, that's what Apple would like if you buy 5 of these things,
that's
right?
That's true.
Yeah, so like the movement thing is, it's like, and then even if you're using it in like, say the multimodal thing that I'm talking about, where you can say, you know, hey, Apple thing, look at this. Can you tell me about it? Whatever. Can you help me with something where it needs the visual sensor for? Why not just use some kind of, 360 or 180 degree camera sensor system, like the thing they already built for Vision Pro, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that thing's already observing. I don't know what that field of view is on that thing, but it's pretty significant, right? So you don't need a mechanical thing to observe an area, right? So that's, so the movement, the arm movement thing seems weird to me. And it's introducing, engineering and cost problems in there, right? That that's going to, like all mechanical things that move, it's going to have wear and tear. So I don't know. It seems cool, I think. Like, it seems like I kind of want it, but I'm just not sure if it's really good. People are going to be super excited about it.
Yeah, I can't see the use case, but maybe that's why this guy's in charge, and it's the product they're looking at, I guess, 2 years away, 2 to 3 years. They're figuring out what it's going to be. And like with all rumor cycles, it could be in a year we get, or even a month, we get the rumor like, oh, Apple has now shelved the robotic arm iPad project.
I mean, didn't this guy used to work on the car? Like the guy they put in charge of it?
Yeah,
so there you go. This guy's used to having years of work just thrown away, I guess.
Absolutely. But yeah, I can picture certain use cases like we've talked about, that home hub that is not just for HomeKit, but is like your home AI. So it actually has a lot of AI capability within it, and then it's handling any of your like home AI tasks that you would do, and you can talk to it. Maybe even it's operating with your existing HomePod, so you talk through a HomePod. It feeds it out to this thing that's actually doing the processing. All that stuff could be cool, but again, I don't see what the robotic arm is doing for you in that scenario, especially when so much of future AI stuff is so heavily driven by voice. But yeah, well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, we'll buy it, so.
That's true. They'll convince us.
Yeah.
But another rumor coming out this week, in addition to that, is kind of, I don't know, might have a similar design to it, and that is the iMac that is 30 inches. So Apple has reportedly been working on this for quite some time, and now it's back in the rumor cycle that they're still working on this. Just a new iMac with a, I think, mini LED display is the current rumor. 30 or 32 inches is what they're currently citing for this. And I guess the current iMac is 23, right? And it's only 23. There used to be the 23 and 27.
Yeah, there's only one size iMac now,
Yeah.
and it would be the smaller size of the old line if it still existed. Yeah.
So I think this could be quite popular, but also quite big for certain individuals. But what do you think? Do you think, like, when you get older and want bigger text size, do you also just want a bigger screen, or do you want to keep the smaller screen?
I like how you're also know your ageism here. Like, oh, this got to be for old people.
It's just this is theory number one.
Yeah. Just throw out theories. Yeah, this is gonna be incredibly popular.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. I mean, so Apple has already sold 30-inch displays before. The old cinema display, they had a 30-inch option for that for a few years, and then they kind of redesigned it and made a 27-inch to kind of match the iMacs of the time. But I don't think 30 inches is probably the biggest monitor that I want, but I don't think it's completely oversized, you know, especially if you're, I mean, I'm looking at your setup off camera right here. You're a 2-monitor guy.
Yeah.
You're rocking 2 monitors. I'm a single monitor person, right? So
That
like,
makes sense.
So I always opt for like a 27-inch kind of thing. And if it had a 30, I would probably think about it just because I like a singular display. I feel like if I have 2 displays, I'm just using that other display for distractions and nonsense, you know? So yeah. And I think, if this also accompanies maybe beefier specs, right? If there's somewhat harkening back to the iMac Pro, which was it was really meant as a stopgap until the new Mac Pros came out for kind of creative professional people, but ended up being pretty popular. Like a lot of people like those. So if this is like I said, it's a little boosted in terms of specs from the regular iMac. I think it's something would be cool, and I think people would buy it.
More like a Mac Studio with a
and in fact, that's the name I would call it. I'd call it iMac Studio. That's a free one for you, Apple. Like,
that's the name of this product. Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, and I love iMacs. I mean, me and you both have an iMac that we use as kind of like tertiary computers, I guess, right? It's not like I'm like on it using it a lot, but it's great design, great machine.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. So that's 2 different devices that are, kind of on an arm, you could say.
I guess, sure, I guess.
One of them robotically moves. One of them
I will say,
pivot yourself.
The current Apple display, that the ARM technology it uses with that kind of double hinge thing that it does, that's cool. I like that. So I hope they bring that over to whatever the new iMac kind of thing is. I think that'd be awesome.
So this isn't just for old people. I'm sorry, I didn't. It was just a run. It was just a theory, Yeah. Maybe it's.
I'm like, you can make the text big on smaller screens too. Like, I don't think you need the bigger screen for the bigger. That would be like an old person thing. No, I got to get the bigger screen for the bigger text.
For the bigger text, yeah.
Like, what?
But I could also picture a lot of other use cases, and even some situations where maybe you want a bigger screen and you're using this as more of your like screen. So you could have it in a room and it becomes your TV as well, because it's beyond that 23.
I had that set up, right? Where it's like, it's my computer's my multimedia device, right?
Yeah.
So I'm using it as a TV, everything. Yeah.
And it will be a great display, which is always one of the benefits of the iMac is it's this built-in awesome display, not just like a run-of-the-mill whatever display. It's great display with a great computer.
That's
all in
what
one.
always has made the iMac such a great value. Is cause, I mean, people don't really do this anymore. But back when people used to be like, Windows versus like PC versus Mac people, which is I don't think it's really a thing that much anymore, right?
Yeah.
But that was one of the things people were like, oh, the iMac specs suck for how much money it is and all this kind of stuff. But like when you actually price it out and include a monitor of that quality,
Yeah.
the iMac you're actually you're spending less money than you would on like a similar spec machine with a similar spec display. So yeah, love the iMac. Always loved the iMac. Hope it stays around.
So you're on board for the iMac Studio.
I will not be buying it. No. But,
No. Okay.
but I could say if someone wouldn't. I just don't need it anymore. I've got
Yeah.
a Mac Studio and I've got a monitor that's on one of those like cool ergo arms now, so like I can turn it different orientations and stuff.
The arms are pretty nice.
Yeah. So like I'm not into this, but I would recommend this to people. So
Yeah. So that's one that's a pretty obvious Apple category. The robotic arm thing, that's definitely a surprise. And the next one is somewhat of a surprise as well, but it's quite interesting what the rumors are saying for this, and that it's an Apple smart ring. And we've seen rings from people like Aura. We've seen a Samsung smart ring. Essentially, it's taking some of the functions that you would do with a watch, but putting it on a ring. So different health sensors, tracking your sleep, all that kind of stuff. But in Apple's patent for a smart ring, it shows it working with health stuff, but then also devices like the Mac, TV, and smart glasses. So this just leads people to assume this could be gestures. And I think that's quite interesting. I can't picture what the gestures would be, but let's say for you're sitting in the room with your TV and then all of a sudden your ring just allows you to control your TV. You don't have to reach for a remote. Or I guess on the iMac or Mac you could do something. I'm not really sure. What do you think about gestures being on a ring?
Cool. Again, like I'm not super sold on gesture as a control interface. I can't see how me minority and reporting the TV is any better or easier than just picking up the remote and doing it. You know, but it seems neat. There's probably other things in here too, not just gestures it could do. You know, like interfacing with those devices. For example, if you want to, let's say you don't want to have a watch on, right? But you want to give health data to the Apple Fitness app on the Apple TV, right? You can do that. If you are in the world where you're wearing like smart Apple glasses, right, and you've got no phone and no watch, the ring could be the thing that not only does a thing like vitals and things like that and communicates with it that way, but also acts as your NFC tap system for the world, right? For all the things that use that now. So I think there's a few interesting things with the ring.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people would really be into this, like would you want to rock a ring, I already am kind of am iffy about rings in general. Like it just feels weird to me. I don't like the feel of rings on my fingers, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. But I'm sure there's people out there who hate watches and would love a alternative way to have a wearable. So
yeah, I could see it being popular, but again, like a lot of the products we're seeing from Apple as of late, I feel like it's like, oh, okay, that could be very cool, but also seems kind of niche. I'm not sure if they'll be able to take that off, but they've proved it to us in the past with things like the watch.
Well, I mean, I was a person who's like, why do I need an Apple Watch? I already got a watch that tells me the time, and then sure enough, 6 months later, like everyone else, like when I really got to see it and I understand what it was doing, I was like, oh, this is really cool. So maybe same kind of thing with this. I was saying, oh, this is giving me something that the watch isn't giving.
Yeah.
And it'd probably be easier to sleep with, so you could do sleep tracking with it. It would, in theory, I guess, be slightly easier for NFC kind of tap stuff, just because it's, I don't know, your hand's closer than your wrist to things. So yeah.
Yeah, I could see it. And maybe it's going to be as simple as what you just said, like it's giving your vitals to the TV when you're doing Apple Fitness on the Apple TV. Maybe that's what they're talking about, but maybe it is like you're watching TV and you just double tap your ring or something, and then all of a sudden it pauses.
It would you would think and get better data for things like the Vision Pro and like as a pure optical tracking gesture system. Having just one point of data on that track probably improves it significantly. So yeah, it'd probably be cool.
Yeah, and then eventually you're just wearing 10 Apple rings to get the best possible tracking.
You know that someone is going to do that if this comes out, right? Like some YouTuber's going to be like, I bought an Apple ring for all my fingers, right? And they're like now I'm tracking all my vitals. They're crazy. And I can see too, like people like testing it like on different hands, like see like you get like different vitals from like, my heart rate's better on my right hand than my left hand or something.
More accurate or whatever. Yeah, pretty ridiculous. But we could see that in the future. Apple has been patenting it, but like all Apple patents, they patent a lot of things. Yeah. Doesn't necessarily mean it's coming. But next is the iPhone Air. And this has come a lot more into focus recently because we heard for the iPhone 17, they were going to do a slim one. and it was going to be different from the Pro and be its own different design, I think slightly smaller, and we weren't exactly sure what this was going to be or how it was going to fit. But now it seems like it's actually potentially going to be a more expensive design than the iPhone 17 Pro, but not actually the best phone, but be kind of this very cool, slim Air package, which we've definitely seen them do with other products. You think about the iPad, you have the iPad Air sitting in the middle, and I think it's probably one of the most popular iPads. Then you have the MacBook Air, which at first was kind of odd and extra expensive because it's slim, and now it's like the most popular MacBook you can get because it has tons of power. And it looks like that might be what Apple's trying to do with this iPhone 17 Air. What are your thoughts on the 17 Air?
Yeah, I think you bring up the best point there, right? Is that on paper at first you're like, wait, so it costs more, is not as powerful as the most powerful one, not as cheap as the cheapest one, and is just thinner or has a different design. How could that possibly work? Until you look at every other Apple product category, and that is the most popular. I'm almost certain you're right about the iPad Air being the most popular iPad. That's
probably why they just introduced the large one.
Exactly right. Like that's probably selling great. Then like you mentioned, the MacBook Air is, I mean that's the quintessential example of this in some ways, right? Because there was a time when Apple had the full line of MacBook through MacBook Pro with the Air sitting in the middle.
Yeah.
And the Air is still the most popular thing people were buying. The MacBook Air is, has incredibly popular, especially only gotten more popular with the advent of the M series chip, since now you're not really even sacrificing a ton of performance, right? Like obviously the MacBook Pros can outperform it and things, but not for what most people do, right? So I can see them looking at that. I can see the whole meeting where like someone pitches the beginning and Tim Cook's like, why does this make any sense? And then there's a big reveal. It's like, next slide. Oh yeah, but we already do it. It's like the most part. And there was like, oh, it's like so obvious. Like they're like, why didn't we have done this before? So cool.
Yeah. I'm excited for that one. I think it will probably prove to be pretty popular because it'll be like a new, cool, different design. It's thin. You like the form factor. Maybe it just feels better in a hand as opposed to the Pro. And then, yeah, it still gets you plenty of performance that's better than the cheap one, but you're like, I'm not actually a Pro. I don't need this crazy one.
And I could see them doing it like especially if the maybe it like, I don't know, it doesn't have as nice a camera as the Pro, right? So it knocks out the third camera. So it has like a 2-lens system like the base model, but is a better design with maybe, close to Pro specs, but not all the Pro's hardware features.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden that kind of makes sense, right? Because then it's like, oh, like, yeah, like I don't need 3 cameras. I don't need all that, but I like this new design. And if it's, slightly more powerful than the baseline, I'd probably buy that one. I'd probably buy it.
Yeah, and the more AI features they develop and the better they get, it in some ways eliminates your need for certain hardware. So maybe you're like, oh, I don't need the 3x or 5x zoom lens because I can just AI enhance this photo. Or like Apple has this feature that will do basically what I'm trying to accomplish in software. Right. And that could be a part of that, what they're looking forward to in the future is introducing this slightly cheaper phone that gets people to upgrade, but they don't need to go all the way to Pro because a lot of the features are now going to be in software with things like Apple Intelligence.
Right.
The next patent from Apple this week comes in the form of AR glasses / Apple Vision Pro. And this one's pretty interesting to me. The image definitely looks like an Apple Vision Pro, which makes sense. That's the product they have today. But essentially it's sidewalls that can be opaque or transparent, and then they go dark when you're immersed in the thing. And to me, this seems like it would be quite good because it could allow them to make the device feel more immersive and increase your field of view without them having to actually increase screen real estate, which would add to cost. Because when you put the Apple Vision on, the field of view is pretty narrow. You do notice it. There's certain things where if you're using pass-through, for instance, I have to look a little more than I would in real life because I have to physically move the thing. I can't just look with my eyes into my peripherals because it's cut off. This potentially could help fix that. And then once you're in watching content or whatever, it just goes dark since it's not an actual screen. I think I'm understanding this correctly.
Yeah, that seems like exactly what it's doing. Seems pretty cool to me. I got a little bit of a classic Matthew war story.
Ooh.
Well, not really a war story, just I guess a government story. They're in there's a room in the NSA where it's like has like a larger kind of ops floor kind of area, and then kind of a briefing room thing in the middle of it, off to the side a little. But it's glass walls, so you can see through it. But on the inside, you can press a button and it does it makes them opaque.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I can't see through. Yeah, so I was like, I'm sure it's like a similar kind of technology. I have no idea how that works. And I was like, when I first saw that, I was like, this is like government waste for sure, man. They could have just put curtains on the walls, like, install this thing. But it's pretty neat. It's one of those, it's one of the few times during my service to the government where I actually saw something that seemed like from a movie. You know, like I was like, oh, like that's pretty badass. So yeah, I think this technology is. I mean, it's transition lenses, you know, like they've had these kind of things for years where it's like it reacts to certain things and it changes color. Makes a lot of sense to me. And I think you're right. The patent only looks like the Vision Pro because that's the device they have right now. So that's what they're going to put in the patent. Who knows what this thing is actually envisioning? And like all patents, it could just be they want to develop it and patent it so someone else doesn't beat them to it so they don't have to pay them a royalty at some point in the future.
Yeah. Also, the difference here would be the Vision, you're not seeing anything real. It's all recreated in the screen with cameras. They do a really good job, but this would change that to where you would actually be seeing part of the real world. And so that would, in practice, change, like, I guess there'd be a cutoff where you're looking at the real world and then it's a screen. I don't know how they would do it, but...
Yeah, this would be a thing where I think the idea is like for a full, real, transparent system, you know, that can all of a sudden darken and display stuff or whatever, right?
Which kind of would be the ultimate fruition of AR glasses.
Yeah.
They're true AR, and then all of a sudden you're fully immersed.
Yeah. You get the best of both worlds, right? Which is what the Vision Pro is doing the best version of that we can do now with current technology.
Yeah.
But in the future, they probably want they work like AR stuff perfectly and VR stuff perfectly with this.
Absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to all Apple Vision developments because I love it. I think it's a great device, especially for watching stuff, but it's incredibly expensive. It has all these things that I totally recognize are flaws and things it hasn't really delivered on, and they still have a lot of work to go with apps and different things that are still in beta and more content coming to it. But when you experience something really good on it, it's like, wow, this will be an amazing thing in the future. So I'm excited to see all the development there, and maybe in the future we will get some Apple Sapphire glasses.
Coming soon.